Hi, I'm Christopher Allen Brewer. I'd like to say this about that regarding cultural appropriation and spirituality. I've already written about this topic and made a previous video about it, but since it's trending again and non-native voices are having their say, I'll give it another go. For several years, over a decade now, I've managed a spiritual living store here in Colorado. As a general manager, I do everything from purchasing and receiving to accounting to maintaining our psychic reader schedule. Customers come to our store seeking help with things such as health, relationships, finances, spiritual protection. I'm featured on many paranormal television programs, so I get viewers of these shows who come to me seeking assistance and guidance. It used to be I could tell exactly what show they were watching, as we'd have a string of people coming in seeking protection from jinn, nightmares of black-eyed children, portals open through Ouija boards, everything under the moon, depending on what episode of which show had just aired. I also witness a lot of misinformation being spread, so one of my jobs is to reset and redirect these customers. For instance, once a pair of girls came in who were hoping one of our psychic readers could conjure up a dead uncle to take revenge upon someone who had wronged them. It wasn't until months afterward I was flipping through Amazon Prime and saw just this plot in the synopsis of a paranormal movie. Or another time, a woman's bundle of sage wouldn't stay lit, and she assumed it was because an evil presence was stopping her from smudging her home. I informed her that the bundle was just packed too tight to allow any air inside. She still preferred the malevolent being theory. At our store, we carry all kinds of tools from many different cultures for protection, divination, spiritual balancing, love and abundance drawing, and developing psychic abilities. Speaking of which, there's a lot of talk about cultural appropriation and the sharing of certain tools and methods of other belief systems. I was born in Pine Ridge, South Dakota, into the Oglala Lakota tribe. I have participated in many ceremonies, in sweat lodges and powwows, to my own Indian naming ceremony in Vision Quest in 1991. I obviously don't need education from non-Native Americans regarding cultural appropriation, but it does make for smart article writing. I've been asked countless times what I think of non-natives adopting Indian names, or all of this fuss over these ancestry DNA test kits. I overhear people talking about these tests and being so surprised, disappointed, and sometimes devastated that the results didn't include any Native American results. So sometimes it could seem like a novelty, like these ancestry things are like Easter eggs or Pokemon cards, and the Native American one is always highly coveted. I've been offered money for my eagle feathers. I've been asked for my sperm for people wanting to have Native children. I've been asked to name non-natives to bless homes. I've been asked for peyote, because that's all it takes, right? A trip with a plant and an internet certificate, and suddenly you're qualified to host ghost dances. We and our tribe recognize such ignorance, but we also see how very many are so starved for the sacred, and how everything is set up to be so effortless and easy that so many have a hard time getting up off the couch and just being big boys and girls, or connecting with the divine. We always strive to educate, but not in a Karen kind of way, with committees and subcommittees and pointing fingers and shaming. It's not our way. You will remember the uproar over the Rachel Dolezal masquerading as African American. Do you know how many times I and my family have had to listen to that Cherokee princess story? Or the great following of the Gabby Petito story? Tragic and shocking and sad. I followed it myself, yes. Though how many Native women and women of color have gone missing with zero publicity? And I never once flipped out over an ignorant or uninformed request or comment from another. It's just not our way. I attend a powwow every March, one of the biggest in the country. It's a great opportunity to connect with my family, some of whom dance in the powwow, and just to be around others from many nations, because I have a history of perfect strangers coming up to me and asking what I am, then saying, "Funny, you don't look Native American." Forgot the headdress. I've been presented with many mystical experiences from my Creator, visitations from spirits, premonitory dreams and visions, animal totems appearing when I needed them. Because we believe that regardless of what the physical world says is or is not possible, it's spirit which has the governing authority. And it's a spirit which you have to develop your own intimate relationship with, regardless of your background, because it's not a slot machine. or a gift shop. In my store, I often have to remind people that spirituality is a practice. You don't just put a crystal in your pocket and call it a day. And spirituality includes congruently practicing virtues such as compassion, kindness, humility. I don't often post on a lot of spiritual topics because spirituality has become so showy. Yoga selfies and crystals glued to foreheads and vegan dinners, all for likes and loves and cares. But for some of these people, it's only namaste until they get cut off in traffic or inconvenienced in some way. It's unfortunately something I see every week in this current age of entitlement, though I've met so many wonderful people on my path to enlightenment, to attain my highest potential, to work with my shadow, to see my mother in everyone. People from everywhere whose spiritual paths happen to cross with mine. I was in New Orleans over the summer, mingling with a number of voodoo practitioners and priests. I actually headed straight for the Voodoo Museum first thing because I wanted to see if their elders and their ways were similar to ours. And there were several similar elements, the largest being a respect for spirit and for our ancestors, who we believe and know still walk with us. I purchased a kashishi, a rattle used for hundreds of years for calling in spirits into a particular space. My tribe has its own rattles and tools involving sound. Is this cultural appropriation? The voodoo priest didn't think so, as he understood my intention and trained me properly in the rattle's use. I spoke of my elders and ancestors, and he listened politely and told me about his own. Though every day I see so many things absent-mindedly done, one of the things I also do at the metaphysical store is write the spells for the Spell of the Month kits we carry. Last month I wrote about there being things we do, like charging our phones, heating something up in the microwave, locking our car door. Things we don't have to think much about, although they are very important. And how our health and other things often get thrown into this category. Like these, we might also knock on wood or perform other seemingly superstitious acts we don't really think much about. Is this cultural appropriation? So many of us use holy water or burn frankincense and myrrh. Is this cultural appropriation? I mean, my tribe had no concept of hell. Originally, we did not worship Jesus, but I grew up in a Christian household and I attended church 2 to 3 times a week. Was this not proper? My grandfather once explained to me how you could have more than one spirit animal, who would appear either in the physical world or in your dream time, at certain times to imbue you with its power. If you were having trouble seeing things clearly or looking at the bigger picture, spirit would then send you a hawk or eagle to lend you their power of perception and focus. So many non-natives have come to me after having had such dreams and synchronicities involving animal totems. Was I not to share my wisdom with them? I never once slammed the door in their face claiming cultural appropriation. I knew we are all here to learn from each other. And like my grandfather said, you might encounter several animals, several signs, several dreams, several tools on your path, and ways of using them, especially in the paranormal field where so many are so concerned about hitchhikers and spirits following them home. They use sage and holy water and Palo Santo, and all of these things our ancestors and elders taught us how to use and share to bring balance back to this world. So I do get it. I'm not down with those tacky, generic Indian maiden Halloween costumes making the rounds every Halloween, or the even tackier Native American themed clothing on websites with none of the profit going to reservations. And I think the best actor who can portray a Native American is a Native American. Last weekend I spoke at length with Mayor McDonald, who played Stands with a Fist in Dances with Wolves. Her Sioux language instructor came from my hometown, and many of the actors in that movie were Oglala. Her character was kidnapped as a child and grew up with the Sioux. You could tell it was a profound experience for her. I was open to what she learned, and I never thought of her handling of the movie as cultural appropriation. It was amazingly done and brought so much recognition and respect to my tribe and others. And I think about people unfortunate enough not to have their own publicists when they go missing. I think of the recognition of natives or other cultures when topics like smudging appear on television. Always an opportunity to teach, without having to inform, of which there is a difference. Myself and my relatives have all gifted things to non-natives, such as dream catchers, bracelets, quilts, flutes, and other things sacred to us. Each were valued, appreciated, and used with good intent. There will always be conversations about closed practices, and like vaccinations, for example, there will always be strong opinions. Mine is that, just as my grandfather said, we are all here to learn from each other and help each other. Granted, there are plenty of Sam Starfeathers out there making a buck off spirit, and I apologize to all the Sam Starfeathers out there, as I'm sure there are some. But we all have a path to enlightenment, and who's to say where that path will lead us? How many of you in the paranormal field have made a buck off of spirit? So we cast no stones. I'll close with this. When my grandfather knew I was struggling through high school, he knew it was time I adopted a new power. He already had some eagle feathers that wanted to be with new owners, so he asked them where they wanted to go. One evening, during his dream time, he saw one of them rotating above a pool of water. He happened to look down and saw bear tracks leading to the edge of the water. He followed them, and when he looked into the surface of the water, he saw my reflection looking back at him. He gave me the feather, along with the name Matot Chante, and a journal for my dreams, synchronicities, and visions. I will be forever grateful for him, for the people in my family and the content of my DNA, for the early exposure to the knowledge of a spirit world. I know that not everyone had such a background or the resources of elders and practices that I did. We're all in need of something. Again, so many starving for the sacred, for the spirit which perhaps they know no way of developing a connection with. Would I ever deprive them of, or call foul, their use of sage, of drums, of other tools they can use to find peace and spread that peace throughout their community? For all I know, in an earlier incarnation, they were Native, and I was not. As it is, we didn't even use the word Native American, another thing that was imposed on us. I don't speak for every nation. All I know is what I know, and that's what I share. We all have our own truths. This has been mine. If you're going to walk the red road, do so responsibly, respectfully, and consciously, like anything else. If I need a hammer, I use a hammer. If my neighbor needs a little sage, I teach him how to do it. We're supposed to hold the light in our community, not extinguish them. I'm Christopher Allen Brewer, and I thank you for watching. My name is Christopher Allen Brewer. I've appeared on several supernatural programs. You can follow me on Facebook through the Future Ghost page and my website, thespiritchasers.com. Thank you for watching.